And so I got home and he's like, I've got some birds in the barn for you. And I opened up the barn door and there was 500 chicks. It got to the point where my husband actually called police because we were having some pretty significant like safety threats as far as like threats to me.
You mean I'm from Langley? I wear plaid all the time.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. I used to go to Gabby's. It's pretty much the same thing.
And I heard organic is the only way to go. Honestly, like a full belly is better than not.
Welcome. This is live from Langley BC, the #1 podcast in Langley, where we talk to local residents and business owners about local events and businesses. Today, we have Kendall from Central Park Farms, Central Park, like New York, and our co-host,
Megan from the local space.
Yes. Welcome, everyone. And Kendall. So,
Wait,
what?
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Daniel, local Langley realtor. And so let's get into it. Kendall, you own a farm. Tell us about the farm life and how that's been treating you in Langley.
I do own a farm in Langley. So we started Central Park Farms about 10 years ago now. I started farming. I'm pretty sure I went through a midlife crisis or like a quarter life crisis. I got divorced. And then like some women cut their hair. I was like, forget it. I'm going to jump out of a really well-paying corporate job and I'm going to start farming. I had never shopped at a farmer's market. I had never bought from a farm direct. I was spending a ton of money on groceries at places like Whole Foods. And then I had met this guy that he had been a 6th-generation farmer, and I kept coming home with this like really beautiful, expensive like Whole Foods meat. And he's like, ooh, that doesn't mean what you think it means. And ooh, you're spending a lot of money on meat that's been like greenwashed with the advertising of thinking that it's like frolicking on grass, and it's not. And you're spending all that money. And so I convinced him to set me up. He had farmland and he wasn't farming it anymore. And I convinced him, I was like, hey, let me raise some chickens. He was like, I'm not getting back into farming. He had retired from it at the time. I was working really corporate long hours and I was adamant. I was like, forget it. I'm doing this new life. I'm going to raise chicken for our family. And he was like, as long as you raise enough to offset your costs, I will set you up. So I went to work one day and I came home and he's like, I set you up with a few chickens. He had done it while I was at work because he was just really tired. Like now he says, he was like, I was so tired of hearing about it. And he's like, so I figured you'd try it. It'd be 8 weeks out of my life. He figured he was a bird farmer. So he's like, I'll raise these birds for you because he thought I would hate it. And he's like, and then afterwards we'll eat these chickens for the rest of our lives. They'll be frostbitten and terrible. And that just will be the end of it. And so I got home and he's like, I've got some birds in the barn for you. And I opened up the barn door and there was 500 chicks. I thought offset your cost was going to be like, we're going to have 40 chickens. And Jay's idea, because he was a huge scale producer. So that was a very small amount of birds for him. Like he raised thousands of birds at a time. And like tens of thousands of birds at a time. And I was like, I'm going to have 40 chickens. This is going to be great. And then I had 500. So I had a background in social media marketing. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to figure out how to sell these birds. So I launched an Instagram account. And I was like, look at me going through my quarter life crisis. Everybody buy chicken off of me. And I had 8 weeks to raise these birds and sell them. And in the first day, we sold 250. Wow. Mostly to friends and family that were like, She's struggling. She's having a mental health crisis right now. Let's buy her chicken. And then it just snowballed from there. And we got into doing pork production. We do beef, we do eggs, we do prepared foods. And 10 years later, we employ 9 people. It's our full-time thing.
That's insane.
I quit my corporate job.
So what did you do before?
So I was actually in supply chain management. I was an operations manager for a third-party logistics company that supplied grocery. Like I moved groceries into grocery stores.
Wow. So, I mean, it's still, now you just moved earlier on in the chain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So like at one point I was doing both and I was like, I'm going to have to make a decision here because I was local food movement, farmer, buy local. And then I was going to my corporate job and I was like shipping meat across the continent. And so I was really the local food movement's worst nightmare in my day job. And then I'd come home and I'd be like, but only buy local. So it was really like, it wasn't working anymore. So I kind of got to the point where we were getting busier with the farm and it was like soul sucking my corporate job. And I decided to quit and gave up a really good paying job for farming, which is not a really good paying job, but we've managed to make it work. We sell direct to consumer, which helps. We cut the middleman out of it.
So on the business side and social media side, I know that that's really, getting really popular. There's this, my fiance watches them online all the time. You maybe know who I'm talking about. It's a big family. There's like 8 babies in a family.
Yeah.
And they, do the direct-to-consumer beef, and they send out those like beef boxes.
Yeah. There's a number of them in the U.S. Like Ballerina Farms is one.
That's them.
Yeah, I was going to say Ballerina. I actually know Hannah. So I've worked with her in the U.S. and stuff like that. And there's quite a bit of that in the U.S. where they have a lot of, particularly in Utah, and they have a lot of kids. Hannah's from Utah. And then they have these really big families and they do direct to consumer. We don't see the direct to consumer, or we weren't seeing the direct to consumer as much in Canada for a while. We don't have the same transportation infrastructure here to be able to do, like down in the US, they ship US wide and they do those meat boxes. But here we don't, we're a lot more spread out. So it's a lot more problematic. Megan, you can probably attest to shipping Canada Post in Canada is tough when you don't have refrigerated product. Now make it something that is refrigerated. The cost is huge. So we don't
have to do like same day.
Yeah, like they got to do they do big insulated boxes and they put dry ice in it and stuff, but it's really hard to do that here. So we do delivery within West Vancouver to 𝐄𝐦𝐚𝐢𝐥, and we do delivery in-house for our business now.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I know. Well, I was in the restaurant industry growing up, and you'd see the big trucks, bringing in it was all frozen.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it was coming from. So it's always nice to know, if it's local and not messed with, which, I want to touch on, because I don't know if there's anything you want to bring up about local farming. I'll go for it then. Okay, so question. I watched this video. I think I talked about it the other day. So it was this video talking about conspiracy theories, right? And it was like, you really become a conspiracy theorist when you get chickens. Because once you get chickens, it's the start of,
it's the gateway drug of farming.
Exactly. And then I almost had chickens during COVID.
Everybody almost had chickens during COVID.
You probably sold them to my friend, because we were going to start a little chicken coop, because we thought we weren't going to get eggs anymore. Eggs are skyrocketing in price, and I eat too many per day. Anyways, so the theory is you see chickens, you see what eggs they're laying, and they're not all white, round, nice shaped eggs. And so when you take that home, from the farm, you're like, there's something going on with these chickens that they're all the exact same, right? So I don't know. Coming from a farmer, you probably know more about that.
I do know quite a bit about that. I mean, when you're buying eggs in the grocery store, they've been graded. So their eggs are still going to be, there are different species of birds that lay different colored eggs. So when you're buying them from a place in a grocery store, they're running the same breed in their entire barn. So everything's going to be a brown egg. Then they grade out in things that are undersized, oversized, that look different. Those go into products that have eggs in them, not an egg that's in a carton at a grocery store. So what you're getting is just going through a grading center.
What do they do with the other graded eggs?
So like crackers and those kind of products, like anything when you buy eggs in a carton and stuff like that, it goes into that. So they're like the seconds of eggs and then they go into other products. But what you're getting in the grocery store is just the result of there being a very big chicken barns that are all supplying to these grading facilities, and then they grade out the perfect eggs to go into the cartons. Whereas when you have more of like a backyard, we have very standardized eggs for our farm, and then we've got like our backyard flock, which are like blue egg layers, and they're just kind of, they're roaming around and doing their own thing, but those don't end up in our cartons for our customers because typically those chickens lay less eggs per year. They're a heritage breed, so they produce less, which means it costs more to raise them because they're not producing as many eggs per year. So usually if you're trying to make a margin that makes sense and you're not doing it as like a hobby, you're running a standard conventional brown egg or a white egg because you can get the most eggs for the same feed.
Makes sense. But what about the flavor? Because recently I had eggs at Costco that tasted fishy. And they were all that flavor, and I couldn't eat them. I literally was like, I don't know. Like I had to like force them down. And usually, like I said, I eat like 4 or 5 eggs a day.
It all comes down to diet of the hen.
That's a lot of eggs.
That is a lot of eggs. You are my ideal customer.
That's why I was going to get chickens.
Yeah. So, it all comes down to the diet of the hens. Like a lot of times there's the thought pattern of, these deep, rich yolks means the hen's only on pasture and it's like a healthier egg. And while it is true, a hen that eats grass and eats bugs and grubs outside is going to produce typically a darker yolked egg, you can also artificially produce that in a closed barn by just the diet choice, what's in the feed. So it's not always a true indication, which is why if you care about things like that, you should know the farmer that you're buying your product from. That's why I always recommend buying farm direct if you can.
Yeah, it's just a convenience thing. But I'd do it. Like even cost-wise, it's little bit more reasonable to get it locally now. Before, it didn't make sense. But I know, local farmers who are still giving them a dozen for $5. And I mean, I don't know if
Those people are losing money.
yeah, well, that's the thing. They do it for them.
They're
They
doing it
actually
for the
have
tax
too
break.
many chickens. He was telling me they have like 18 eggs a day, and there's, a family of maybe like 10 of them. So they don't go through all the eggs every single day. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think that that's like a really unique thing in Langley, especially, is because we do have farmland and the cost of farmland is so high here. So the property tax break is huge if you farm. And I think that's something that happens a lot of the times when you compare. And people should sell the eggs for whatever makes sense for me. I will always have a customer base because I can market myself to my ideal customer. But when they drive to my farm to buy eggs for $9 a dozen and they pass 3 places that are selling for $5, there is confusion on how that happens, but it's because the 3 places you drove by that are $5 a dozen, they're doing it for the tax break on their property. They're just trying to sell the amount of eggs that they need to get the tax break, and that's where they're generating their revenue compared to somebody who is a career farmer. Like, that's what I do for a living. So I have staff and additional overhead, and I'm not just doing it for a tax break. I'm doing it to actually support our family, which makes it a little bit different. You can lose money at $5 a dozen because you're saving thousands on your property taxes. So that's where the profit is coming for you, and it's easier for you to sell the eggs to actually fulfill your requirements with the government for your income tax or your property tax break if you can sell them for cheaper.
Interesting. Well, that's good to know, because obviously so much stuff online these days, you have to check with the source, right? Don't want to be spreading misinformation. You're making fun of me because you didn't think I'd know anything about farms, and
You're a realtor. They usually stay in suits and
yeah,
pretty
but
cars.
I mean, I'm gosh,
Yeah.
No.
What do you mean? I'm from Langley. I wear plaid all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I used to go to Gabby's. It's pretty much the same thing.
And I heard a rumor you had a truck.
Everyone. went to
Yeah,
Gabby's.
I don't know where that rumor came from.
Was it lifted?
No, it wasn't lifted. It wasn't that extreme. Went to Brookswood. I didn't go. I didn't grow up in Maple Ridge. That's where those lifted trucks are. If you're from Maple Ridge and you're watching this, yeah, that's you.
So don't invite Emma from Cheese Crafters on here.
Why, she has lifted trucks?
No, she's from Maple Ridge.
Oh, but does she have lifted trucks?
I don't think
Probably does. So speaking about farming in Langley, and obviously my background in real estate is, people always complain that, there's so much land that is in the agricultural land reserve, but you're saying too that it's not always, easy to farm.
No, it's not financially. Our land prices here do not make farming in Langley that feasible. The economics of farming, the margins are tight. There's not a lot of money to be made in it. And unfortunately, as we see the older generation, like the average age of farmers in Canada is something like 56 years old now. So we're seeing farmers aging out of farming, but then younger generations can't get into farming because the land prices are so high. So we're seeing quite a bit of movement in people selling farms on the Lower Mainland and moving out of the Lower Mainland, where it actually can somewhat become financially viable to farm. And there is opportunities in the Lower Mainland because of those property tax breaks to land lease. In my industry, it being raising animals, there's a lot of infrastructure that's required to do that. I can't just slap cows on a piece of land that doesn't have appropriate fencing and things like that and just like cross my fingers and hope for the best. So there is quite a bit of infrastructure. But certainly the land values in Langley make it really, really difficult to actually get into agriculture.
Yeah, I could see that 100%. And
haven't you had issues with like your landlords trying to be helpful, but then not being helpful?
So we actually, I can speak from experience. We actually sold our farm. So my husband owned about 37 and a half acres in Langley since the early 90s. He had purchased it with his family, bought his family out of that property, and then in 2021, I believe, we sold that property. Of course, no farmers could afford to buy that property. So we sold it to a non-farmer who then leased the land back to us. We moved out of the house. It's a very unique situation. So we had put all the infrastructure we needed to operate our business onto that property while we owned it, then sold it. They moved into the house, and now we lease the land back. So we actually still have access to all the infrastructure that we had previously put on the land. But it is tough when you start taking somebody who's not versed in agriculture And now you're land leasing from them because things like, shutting off a water faucet might seem like not a big deal. But when that water faucet goes to animal water, like we've got to be really vigilant about what happens on the property to make sure that we don't run into issues.
Right.
You open a gate, you close a gate, things like that, where you maybe just don't think about it when you're not in agriculture suddenly becomes an issue. We had a lot of phone calls at the beginning of being like, I think there's a problem. And I'm like, no, those are just animals breeding. That noise is just like, no, that's okay. That's actually normal or whatever. You'd have those calls at the beginning where it's like, I don't know what's happening in the field. I'm like, they're good. They're good. This is normal behavior.
Do you live very far from?
We're a block away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Very
we
close.
lease 4 properties that are all within that like 1 block radius of each other. So it's not bad. It's just, it is a little bit difficult. Like we'll have cows calve and we're not on site anymore, but we are very close. So that does help. But
So yeah, touch on maybe like what do you, I was gonna say products, but like they're animals, so they have feelings.
But she
like, I don't
makes
know.
lots of products too.
What do you
like
do
with
with
recipes
the farm?
and
With the animals? Yeah, with the stuff that you sell at the local space.
No, she doesn't sell anything at the
I don't
local
sell-
space.
I don't sell meat.
Local space.
I don't sell meat at the local space.
No,
I
like
thought
she makes
there was
recipes.
like little like I don't know what else you'd make.
She makes like sausages and like
So we actually have a really extensive product line. We're over 100 products now. We sell everything direct from our farm though. We don't wholesale to anybody. Everything comes direct from us. So you can order on our website. We can deliver right to your house. We do everything from chicken, pork, grass-fed beef. We do prepared foods. So if you are somebody who wants convenient food, because that was something that we really struggled with at the beginning, is that as we become more disconnected with where our food comes from and disconnected with actually spending time in our kitchen cooking, like I'm somebody who relies on convenience food. I was somebody who relied on convenience food before I got into farming. So when I started farming, a lot of the products that I was producing, like these big roasts and stuff, I just didn't even have the skill set to cook them myself. I was 27. I wasn't cooking those types of meals. And then all of a sudden I got into farming and I was like, wait a second, I got to figure out how to use all these cuts of meat that we're making. So we ended up partnering with a local chef and he does a line of prepared foods for us. He actually recently retired. So we're just working out some new partnerships in that space. So we have a really cool balance between people who want to eat farm direct, but maybe are younger and they don't know how to do that kind of cooking yet. And they're coming in and buying our chicken pot pies and lasagnas and things like that. And then we've got typically an older generation that is more familiar with cooking all these different cuts, and they're using the other portion of what it is we produce, which is pretty cool.
That's making my mouth water, but yeah.
She makes the best pepperoni ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, now I know where to get it. Before coming here, I didn't know what we were trying, which you can talk about, but I had steak. I cooked a couple steaks.
Today?
Just before coming, literally.
You have steak in the middle of the day?
Yeah, I was lunchtime and I was like,
and you
I'm
had
in a rush.
couple
Let me
steaks?
They're little ones. They're little baseball cuts. What are they called? Baseball, yeah. New York.
Aren't those two different things? New York and a baseball?
I'm in baseball, yeah. Cut that out.
Don't fact check his
cuts.
cuts.
It's funny because like I was gonna say something about it, and I guess I'll talk about it now. I literally was eating it, and I don't know what happened, but came off my fork, and just a juicy cut went on my phone. So now it's got that aroma of steak. Yeah, want to smell?
not the worst ever. But
No, I don't mind it at all. I love steak.
Were the owners nice to their cows?
I don't know. I got it. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about that. So
you got it from Costco?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
Actually, I don't know if I can talk about it.
Okay, don't talk about it.
Well, okay, I won't say the name. I got it from one of the providers for a local restaurant. So I got a great price, and I got the big box. Ends up being like $2.50 pretty much per steak. So yeah.
That is a very good deal.
It
That is a very good deal to be had. So keep that a secret.
But
keep
yeah,
that
I'm not saying anything. The restaurant owner probably doesn't even know, but it's through like, anyways.
Did it fall off the back of the truck?
Yeah, pretty much. That's
yeah,
what
okay.
happened, yeah.
Is it a guy you know off Facebook?
Yeah. He put an ad out and he's just like,
Marketplace.
Want steaks for $2.50. But yeah, no, that's all not always available, obviously. And it's nice to know, if it's grass-fed or I don't even know what this one is. So it doesn't have a label because I'm buying it from some guy. So
I mean, Aside from the weird, sketchy, potentially Facebook Marketplace meat purchasing, that is one thing that comes with this space is there is a lot of like stigma and food shaming and things like that. You know, like the organics are like, organic is the only way to go. Honestly, like a full belly is better than not. And so I tend to be somebody at the beginning of my career in agriculture. I was like, but we're pastured farms. So I was like, you need to eat pasture raised and that's the best. And Canadian food and farming, it's safe. So whether you're buying from a farm that because you can afford it and it happens to be a closed barn, like that's still produced well, it's still safe to eat and feed your family. Obviously, if you have the means and it aligns with your values, eat the way that it aligns. But a lot of people just can't afford to shop that way. A lot of people want to be able to feed. Like we have a lot of followers on our Instagram account that could never buy from us. And I know that like a big shift for me happened during COVID because I was always kind of marketing of that stance. Like we're really producing a superior product. I feel very confident in what we do and the choices we make as a farm. But then a woman sent me a message during COVID and she was like, I just want you to know I lost my job. And she's like, I have fallen into depression. In the morning, my kids climb into bed with me and we watch your farming videos. She's like, I can't afford to buy from you. She's like, I just want you to know, though, that my kids, like, it gives me some time with my kids in the morning and we can watch, like, the animals and what you're doing on the farm. And that means a lot to me. And I stopped and I was like, dang, the type of marketing that I was potentially doing could make her feel less than because she can't afford to buy from me. And I don't ever want there to be somebody that's like, if you're interested in learning about farming, come and hang out on my page. You can learn about farming, whether you can support me or my business or not. I'm just happy that people are taking interest in where their food comes from. So I think it's really important that as a producer myself, that I make sure that it's really well known that we have really good rules here. And a lot of times things are marketed in a way that makes people feel like they shouldn't eat conventionally produced food. But there's a lot of regulations. It's the same as you go to a restaurant now and they've got it on their menu and they're like, this chicken is free run and hormone free. And you're like, that doesn't mean anything. Hormone usage in chicken farming in Canada has been illegal since the 60s.
No
So
way.
putting that on your menu means nothing. Every chicken is that. So pointing that out is not necessary. And then when you're excited about free run, there is no such thing as caged meat birds in Canada either. So saying free run means you're at the very lowest production. Like there is nothing less than that. So marketing that as some sort of like, in this restaurant, we only do free run, hormone free. Okay, so you're telling me you're like the base level of chicken?
It's like lactose free.
It's very confusing.
Lactose free isn't lactose free to have lactose. It just has the enzyme to help you break down lactose.
Yeah, and I'm not a dairy girl, and that I know that there's some cheese that's like, because I know Cheese Crafters has naturally lactose free.
If it's aged for 12 months or more, then the enzymes have broken down. So I am lactose free.
No way.
Yeah.
So I love cheese. And
so anything that's aged for 12 months or more, it just doesn't have lactose in it anymore. So you could have that cheese.
Yeah. No, but that's what I mean. So like I always eat cheese and I can't have too much other dairy. And, people always told me like, oh, you're not on lactose, so you can eat cheese.
I just have lactose-free cream. Lactose. I can't do the soy and oat.
You could try water buffalo dairy.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Oat milk?
No, it tastes
Stop
like
calling it milk. It's not milk.
It's just like
water?
flour and water.
White
It's like,
water?
why am I drinking flour and water? That's what it tastes like.
Canadian dairy is where it's at.
Get the vanilla one. I don't know.
I'm not like drinking cups of milk anyways, but I just have the lactose-free cream in it. It does the
baby
job.
The baby drinks liters per day. Yeah, that's
Apparently,
our
water
consumer
buffalo
of milk.
dairy has a different protein or a different enzyme that makes it so that if you're lactose intolerant, you may be able to drink that instead.
What does it taste like?
I used to buy their yogurt. So I used to buy from Tesfa, but there's also one in Langley now on 40th and 232, I believe, a water buffalo dairy. It's just creamier.
Oh.
I didn't have any problem. It was great and mixed in my coffee and stuff, and I'd eat their yogurt and things like that. But apparently there's something about water buffalo dairy versus traditional cow dairy that is easier to digest.
Goat milk, too.
Yes, exactly.
Goat milk.
Yeah, because I have goat milk ice cream at Milner or whatever. They have that place, and I could eat the ice cream and I don't die.
As somebody who raised goats, I have a hard time for some reason with goat dairy. because male goats have a scent to them that is just a different level, and so then I can't get behind it. It's great, and it's a good price. It's just like there's something in my head.
He's never gonna have goat milk.
No, I don't.
Sorry,
I love goat cheese. They can't stop me from eating that. But it's funny you say that, because once you've also been behind the scenes, I know somebody who, how do I say this without saying it? They don't eat pork.
You can say it.
They don't eat pork.
They don't eat pork?
They don't eat pork.
A lot of people don't eat pork.
A lot of people don't eat pork.
But it's for a reason. They deal with pork products every day. Yeah. And that's probably as much as I can say.
Yeah.
They deal with pork products every day. They don't eat it because they have their own, they've seen behind the scenes.
I've heard that before, just because in other farms, it isn't the cleanest.
That, and because it has like parasites or whatever. But if you cook it, it's fine. It's just he knows, and he's like, I don't want to have that in my body.
And I mean, there's definitely like I have a hard time now that I have farmed going back and eating. Like, we do all beef hot dogs on our farm, and I know exactly what's in it. I mean, I'll still eat a Costco hot dog because, they're cheap and delicious. But I do have a moment where I'm like, this is not what I think of when I think of like an all beef Central Park Farms hot dog, where I know exactly what's in it. But I have no problem eating meat that comes from other places. It's just when it starts to become like in a sausage form, in a hot dog form, that I start to be like, I know that what goes into our sausages is just what goes into, like, it's a roast that's turned into a sausage. So.
Right. Not everything else.
Yeah. It's not bits.
Bits. Yeah.
I got chicken the other day from Superstore, and it still had like feathers poking out on it. So then I couldn't eat it. And Maddie was like, well, it's because it's not from your bougie farm.
Yeah. I mean, that happens. It happens. It's just that because we do like, it's just because it goes through like at the processor, sometimes they're missed, but then ours get hand cut. So then when they're going with like an actual butcher breaking everything down, they're being really cognizant of the fact that we're doing a superior product. So like if there is a feather, it gets removed before it gets packaged. It's just that when
there's so many. No, on all of them, the entire box.
Oh.
Was it chicken wings?
Like chicken legs with breast attached.
Okay.
Like the big things.
Yeah.
The quarters.
Yeah, that's the word. They were on sale. There's a reason.
For a reason, yeah. They saved the money on the extra inspection. Well, I heard you have something to try.
Oh, I know, but there's so much unpacking to do with it.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he edits it.
Oh, okay.
No,
I was going to say
we can keep it.
There's going to be like a bunch of saran wrap opening.
Oh, perfect. That's typical. Yeah, I don't think it'll even pick up the noise, so it's fine. Whoa. What's this?
Well, there's like cheese and crackers.
Oh my God.
But Megan's going to be in charge of opening it because my husband, you might have to peel. Oh, look at that. My husband put it together because I was like in the middle of meetings. He's like,
"Did you guys get married?"
Pardon?
Did you guys get married?
Well, we're coming along, but we've been together for like 10 years. So
I just didn't know if
you
got married at some point.
No,
we don't do titles in
I did that. Well, I did.
Okay, she's been married before.
I've been married before, and so is he, which is probably why we've decided. And my parents, who have been together since before I was born, are not married. I keep trying to get them to go get married in Vegas. I'm like, come on, just do it. Like, you've been together for like almost 40 years. Just do it. And my dad's like, I don't need the government telling me to love your mom. I'm going to love her because I want to be. So he's got a whole thing. And my mom's like, I don't care.
Where are your parents from?
Actually, my mom is from Saskatchewan originally. My dad's from New Westminster.
Okay.
So, but they live in Brookswood.
Were they farmers?
No, definitely not at all. Jay's family is farmers. Like, they were farmers, but I personally throw that over there.
Did you make this on your farm too?
The plate?
Yeah.
I did not make the wooden dish. However, I did make the sausages.
Your husband makes these.
He does on like weekends. Like, he's not a woodworker full time. He has a real job.
That's not a real job?
Well, like, he designs mining equipment. And then on the weekends, he makes stuff out of wood. And
that's
even
cool.
His charcuterie boards are so nice.
Oh, he makes those too.
Yeah,
we should order some.
We have a CNC machine in our garage, so he like makes charcuterie boards and crib boards. Lots of crib boards. I didn't know
Like,
crib was so
really-
popular.
Really nice ones.
We don't even know how to play crib, and he's probably banged out like 200 like crib boards in the past year. And he's like, maybe we should Google how to play crib one day.
Yeah. Just make them and sell them.
That's fun. So what do we got here?
So this is a garlic sausage ring, and then cheese from a couple different local places, and then we've just got whatever my husband put together. He put together some olives and some
The miniature pickles?
those
Those are always good.
You should take a
stepson's
picture for
obsessed.
Instagram because I lost my phone.
Oh. How'd you lose your phone? Oh, my phone's off because it keeps going off, turning on. I don't know how to say that. Okay. Let's dig in. So this is a roast?
So that's a pork product. So it is all cured. So it goes to our butcher, and then they make it using their recipe, and it goes into a smokehouse and they cure it. And what that is, like the actual meat that is in it would be a picnic. So like a Boston butt, a picnic, just something that you would typically turn into like pulled pork. Instead of cutting those roasts, we turn that into sausage. So it's just really clean,
And you
well-produced
throw
meat.
some
Yeah, and then they put the spices in it. All of our sausages are gluten and dairy free. So people who are celiac, who have gluten sensitivities and dairy sensitivities, there is none of that in our sausages, and it's all done actually right in Abbotsford.
Oh, nice.
How come you're not supposed to have pepperoni and stuff when you're pregnant?
I have no idea.
Did
I
you
wonder
just
if it's-
Google it?
I didn't know. I
Oh.
just asked
Yeah,
you a
I have
question.
no idea.
I've just heard that.
I
a
thought you
lot.
looked up, like, can I eat this?
I wonder if it's
Oh.
like nitrates or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. I just heard that a lot.
Yeah, I've never had anybody mention that. It might have to do with the curing.
But
that
it's
goes
also
into
probably
it.
like people that are like, you can't have sushi, but people in Japan
Yeah.
still eat sushi when they're pregnant.
Do people in Japan eat sushi? Raw fish, you mean?
Yeah.
Huh.
Why? Where do you think it came from?
Like, is
That's not what I meant.
he meant when pregnant?
Oh, yeah.
That's good. Well, I mixed it with everything, so. No, I love this, by the way. This, if I could have that for dinner, I would every day.
I routinely do that.
Yeah.
I'm
for dinner.
a grazer. Yeah, I'm a grazer.
I just took out a garlic sausage ring out of my freezer this morning.
Yeah, no, it's well, just like you get all your food groups in right there. With you're just missing the fruit from the wine, you know?
Yeah, we just need the wine. I wasn't sure if we could have done that today. So
Well,
I'm doing coffee, late
don't
afternoon
know.
coffee.
What?
Are you able to?
I can't drink
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, you're there.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. I have non-alcoholic
can
drinks
just-
all the time.
You can just drink some grape juice or something. Same thing.
I'm not even a wine drinker anyway. So,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, you drink a lot of beer. Just have some.
Yeah.
And he drinks a lot of
Neat water.
seltzers and like cranberry vodka.
Right.
No, I don't. Not cranberry vodkas.
That's
Neutrals are not cranberry vodka. They're seltzers. No, they're not even seltzers. They're just vodka drinks.
My husband's a vodka drink guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a farmer.
He's a farmer and he's 6'8" and he's a big dude and he'll
manly man.
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
and he doesn't care about getting the girly cups. He's like, put it in whatever. He'll have a blend. He loves a chi-chi. A chi-chi is Jay's favorite drink.
What is
Those
a
are good.
chi-chi?
It's like a pina colada, but it's made with more pineapple.
You should try Mai Tais.
Yeah, he's like he loves
So
a
good.
blender drink. Anywhere we go, he's like, "Do you
Oh.
guys make chi-chis?" And they always look at him like, like the big burly farm guy like wants an umbrella in his drink.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
I
judge a
don't
book
judge
by
a
its
man
cover.
by his cocktail.
Yeah, yeah. She's like, you're such a girl. I'm like, just because I like those drinks. Well, I'm gonna eat all of this. Eat more.
I just had some. They make olives locally anywhere.
There is a Fume.
Could use a West
Oh,
Point
the-
bottle.
Oh,
Fume.
awkward. I sell
Sell them at your store. That's why I just made that face.
Just kidding.
Just
I knew
kidding.
that.
What?
They make olives locally.
Because she sells them in her store.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's okay.
That's why I was like, I know this answer because I know they
I
sell
was
in your
like,
store.
but I don't know if I've ever eaten. I love olives. I could eat olives all
they're
day.
pretty good. I like them in Caesars.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Have you had a Caesar from the Barley Merchant?
I haven't.
Their dill pickle Caesars, the best thing ever. It's made with dill pickle vodka from Roots and Wings.
Ooh.
And like their own made Caesar dill mix.
I've started to do something that's kind of odd with Caesars.
Did you put beer in it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Love
that's
it.
such an old man thing.
No,
my mom loves it.
thing.
No, lots of people like
It's from Mexico created that.
I used to work at the Clydesdale. I know that's gross. But like all the old men there would have beer Caesars.
Well, did they have beer Caesars or did they have beer with like a side of Clamato?
My mom likes that.
That's good too.
Yeah,
My mom's a beer with a side of Clamato.
No, but like on Sundays it was beer Caesar day.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, they're
I don't-
not called beer Caesars. They're called micheladas.
Micheladas. Gotcha.
I mean, I only know them as clammies, but whatever.
Clammies.
Yeah, clammies.
That sounds weird.
Don't order
But
a
yeah.
Caesar in Greece.
No good.
Because
No, they literally take tomato juice
Oh.
and then take clam juice and pour it into the cup.
Oh no.
They don't have like clamato
Clamato.
juice. They literally just take tomato juice and clam juice and
No.
little stir for you.
That's nice.
Don't sign me up.
It was the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life.
Oh, do you support any provide to any local restaurants or?
We don't. We used to. So we used to supply like Grouse Mountain Resorts and some different restaurants when we were first starting out. Our margins are best if we sell direct to consumer, and with it being so tight in farming anyways, we really appreciate the fact that we had those restaurant partnerships at the beginning because it was so difficult to get our product moved fast enough so that we didn't have an influx of inventory. So it made a lot of sense. It helped us get our name out there a bit more. The restaurants liked partnering with us because at the time it was pretty much just me. So it was, it was something different on their menu, that it was a first generation young female farmer that they were able to support. So it worked for them from a marketing angle. It worked from us to be able to move some product, but the margins just aren't there. Restaurants, they also have incredibly tight margins too. So that's not to the fault of the restaurants that they can't pay more. It's just people, when they go out, they can only pay so much for a meal at a restaurant in most cases. So it's just a little tight to be able to do that.
So they get $2.50 steaks.
Yeah. Well, and I can't compete with, I can't compete with that pricing, but I also I don't have the same consistency of product. So I can't have somebody we'd get restaurants that call us and they're like, we'll take all your tenderloins. I'm like, bro, I know you will, but so will everybody else. Take my ground, take whatever I'm is harder to move, but it makes sense. It's just not something that fits on their menu, and it doesn't fit for most of the restaurant styles out there. They want to get a consistent sized chicken breast every single time, and they want to know that they can get this specific cut year round. And a lot of times what they're looking for, if they're looking for pork tenderloin, that's a very small amount of the whole animal, and I can't raise that many animals to be able to supply that efficiently for our business, because for every pack of bacon, I need somebody to take a pack of sausage. For every pack of bacon, I need somebody to take 3 packs of sausages or 4 packs of sausages. So we have to make sure that we're using the whole animal. Otherwise, we're not doing our jobs properly.
Mm. Well, I got to come grab some sausages then.
I mean, you can order them online. You were talking about convenience.
They
go
even
right
have
to your door.
free delivery.
Free delivery.
You got
Wow.
just buy enough. I just buy lots of pepperoni at once.
I'm like, this is Megan's order. It's all pepperoni. I'm like, I don't even need to look at the name.
Yeah, I just order
what
lots.
non-pork options do you have?
I mean, we do chicken, everything you could imagine. We do chicken sausages. We do chicken pepperoni. We do cured chicken sausages. We do all your breast, thighs, legs, drums. We do smoked chickens. So if you're somebody who likes the idea of ham, but you prefer chicken over pork, it's a ham made with a chicken. So we do a lot of different cool products, and then all your kind of mainstays, ground chicken.
And you don't do beef.
We do beef. Yeah, we do 100% grass-fed,
Their
grass-finished beef.
steaks are the best steaks you'll ever have in your entire life.
I'm just going to tell you, it's very hard to get our beef, though. The demand is so high that we sell out in a couple hours.
Oh, wow.
When we launch beef. So we do 21-day dry age. So it's a super premium product. It's 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, Black Angus. Then we dry age it for 21 days. We even dry age our ground, which is really uncommon because it costs more as a producer. We lose water weight when we do that, but it creates a beefier flavor. Our ground is a lot darker than what you would when you fry it in the frying pan. It doesn't end up with all that liquid in there. It's just a really premium product, and then it sells like crazy. You have to sign up for our newsletter, and when you get the email that says beef is restocked, you have to immediately go order beef.
Oh.
It's very in demand.
You don't have anyone camping outside?
We do. So when we have this, they don't camp overnight, but they're literally there up to an hour before our store opens in the morning and waiting because beef restocked.
That's hilarious.
We actually had to stop putting it in our online store for a while because the demand was so high that we couldn't we just couldn't handle the orders. Like people would get upset because they'd go and try and buy it online and it would sell so fast that by the time they got their shopping cart to paying, the items were already removed from their basket because somebody else had bought it first. So now we typically
like
put it in
Taylor
the
Swift
store.
tickets.
It is. It's like T-Swift tickets, but for beef in Langley.
It's really good.
Yeah. I'm sure people are reselling that.
They are.
Flipping them.
Yeah.
Wow. Scalpers, even in the beef world.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
There's no $2.50 beef at our farm.
No.
But I don't find your beef like overly expensive.
No, and I think with it being dry aged, like a lot of times customers come in and they think that they need this huge amount of beef. And like my husband's a big guy and he's like, you do not need as much beef as you think you need when you're buying it dry aged because it's really concentrated. Like you can eat a lot less of it and still feel completely satisfied. So it ends up being.
So you don't need 2 steaks.
You don't need 2 steaks.
You'd save it for a special occasion.
Yeah.
Would you cook it right then and there, or like freeze it?
So everything that we sell is frozen. It has to be when it comes direct from the farm. So it's all frozen, but we freeze it like as soon as the 21-day dry age period has happened, it's been cut, then it gets frozen right away. Things like chicken, once it's processed and goes through the stage of air cooling, then it gets frozen right away. So it's frozen at its peak freshness instead of when you buy frozen chicken, sometimes it's like towards the end of it being good and then they freeze it. And this isn't that case. We're freezing it right away.
Yeah, no, I heard something about like if you flash freeze it, that's ultimately what kills the bacteria.
Yeah,
so
that's
even then, raw fish isn't technically raw.
Correct.
Yeah, they have to get that temperature down.
I think that the whole thing about you were talking about with not eating it pregnant, I think it's just like a precaution.
Yeah, I think just because you never know how restaurants and stuff are preparing raw
I could
fish.
see that. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I usually just make my own sashimi.
From what? Just from like the fish from the store?
Well, from like TNT, they have sashimi grade. Then you can just cut it up. A lot cheaper.
Sounds better than paying extra for sushi at the store or at the sushi place.
We make our own sushi a lot. So.
Do you have like the rolly thing?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
My husband's Japanese.
Oh, cool. Didn't know that.
Where do you think my last name came from?
I don't know. I guess I didn't really.
You didn't pronounce it out loud?
No, because her name is to me Megan Local Space. That's what her
right.
Oh, okay.
Until I had her on Facebook, I was like, "Oh, you have a last name?
It's not Local Space.
It's not Local Space. What do you mean?" So, like, do you have anything that you're working on that you want to announce?
Yeah, I mean, we've just been plugging around for the last 10 years, and now we're really pushing our store. Like, when I say store, that's very generous for what it is. Really, you're coming to shop on the farm in the area that we pack orders. When COVID hit, we had kind of closed down having farm pickup. It's just, we had what was called the teeny tiny farm gate shop at our old place, and it was very teeny tiny. And then the regulations around COVID meant I physically couldn't get people spaced out enough in there. So we just ended up switching it to home delivery and pre-order for pickup, and that worked really great. But people want to be able to come in. We've had such an influx of new customers lately, which is fantastic. The keeping up with demand thing is always a little bit of a struggle because when you're raising meat, I mean, it takes me 2 years to have beef. Like that's how long it takes. And it takes months and months for pork and 9 weeks for chicken. So it's not a quick rebound when all of a sudden you get an influx of new customers. But we've really been seeing a lot more customers coming into what we call pick and pack. It's where we pick our orders and it's got some glass front freezers in there and people can kind of come and hang out and meet with us and talk about what it is that they're buying a little bit more so than, going on the internet and doing it. So we find most of our Langley customers just come in and hang out with us and buy their product there. So we've been kind of focusing on that. We've got some other really wild projects. We bought a historic building in a community called Greenwood like a year and a half ago. We bought a 125-year-old bank foreclosed hotel. So we are slowly working through the process of bringing that to life. The goal is that we would sell our products out of it, that the saloon there would, supply our meat and use our meat in the restaurant and then have kind of a boutique hotel, Airbnb style in Greenwood. It's a small community there. We've got our ranch in Rock Creek that we're also focusing. It's a small town of 171 people. So very small town, but that helps us produce more beef that we raise on our ranch because Langley, we just don't have property sizes quite big enough to be able to hold a cattle herd would meet demand that we have. So we're kind of working out that, but otherwise we're focusing on trying to continue having some steady and consistent growth and making more connections within our community to be able to get people interested in where their food's coming from, even if we can't supply them, just kind of being that bridge point. I think there's a lot of farmers who produce on a larger scale than us that maybe don't want to show up online and don't want to put themselves out there, especially as meat producers. In our area, there is a lot of people who choose to eat diets that are different, which I fully support, eating whatever it is that fits your values in life. Sometimes that means that we get people on the internet that are super fans of what it is that we do. So a lot of times there's farmers who don't want to show up in that space. So
fair enough.
I'm like the sacrificial lamb that's like, I'm okay, I'll tell you all about farming and I'll show all the
things.
things.
Do you still have issues with like people showing up to the farm?
We used to have it used to be really bad when I first started at 27, because it was pretty much just me farming and Jay was really not involved in the day-to-day operations. I was an easy target because I was young and female. And so it was, people felt like they could come in and,
I think
like actually
probably too.
Yeah, they like would physically threaten my safety and stuff like that, and pretty aggressively, some of the things, because it's just a weird, like I'm an open pasture raised producer. Like I get that not everybody supports animal agriculture, but if you are going to support animal agriculture, like I'm doing it pretty good. Like we're doing a good job. We're treating our animals really, really well. But when you expose yourself online in that way and you're sharing as much as I share it all. And when you do that, you open yourself up. So it was getting pretty bad. And then finally we ended up having a situation where my address was getting shared on the internet and my photo, and it was just being shared through animal activist pages. And we started getting some pretty big pushback. And I typically, like, that kind of thing doesn't freak me out. I never put my stepkids on the internet when they were young, because I just didn't like, their mom and their dad both were fine with us sharing farm life online. But it was up to me to make sure that I kept her kids safe when they were at our house. Like, obviously my husband's there too, but I didn't want to be responsible for another mama's kids when they're at my house and putting them in any sort of danger. So I kept my stepkids off the internet when they were young. Jagger is now 16 and he's born to a 6'8" farmer. He's like, the kid's huge. Like, good luck if you challenge him, good luck. But at the time, we just really wanted to keep that separate. And then it got to the point where my husband actually called police because we were having some pretty significant like safety threats, as far as like threats to me. And the police were like, you need to have him show up online more. And so Jay really started stepping into that position where we were showing him a lot more online, because he wasn't actively in the day-to-day of the farm. And suddenly it was like, here's my husband doing this on the farm. And then we started including him a lot more, and I haven't had a problem since.
Wow. The police said that to you too?
Yeah, the police were like, well, because we were throwing events on the farm at the time. We were doing long table events. And then we had like what happens at Rib Fest and stuff like that. They were going to set up a picket out front our place. And they were saying they were going to like scream at my kids that their stepmom's a murderer and stuff like that. Like, it was just a whole thing. And they wouldn't have been able to see the people, like, it wouldn't have ruined the time for the people, because our farm is really set back. So people would have had to pass it on the way in. But I was just really concerned they were going to block flow of traffic for our neighbors and stuff. You don't want to rock the boat. You want to make things like, we've got 150 people coming to the farm for a long table event. I also don't need like 300 of them in the streets protesting at the same time. So we had gotten police involved just to let them know, like, hey, we might need you to swing down to clear the traffic, help with the flow of traffic. And then they just said to me, they were like, we really need you to have him show up online. It's probably going to help minimize it a bit. I'm like the easy prey online. And so you do end up with a lot of farmers who don't want to share their story online because of that. They have fears for that, for their safety. The thing with farming is you usually live on the property. So it's a very weird dynamic. What you're doing shouldn't, in my opinion, be polarizing, but it is, and especially close to Vancouver, it is polarizing. And then your address is on the internet.
Is there more like vegan in Vancouver area than like across Canada? Like,
yeah, like I would never experience that in my ranch in Rock Creek. Like that would be the day that anybody rolled into my like ranching community of 171 people and like had an issue. You would never make it back out of my ranching community if you tried that. But here it's just not quite the same. We've just more urban. Anytime you started to get closer to urban centers and high populations, and this is not saying anything to choosing to be plant-based. I'm talking about like the extreme activists. Like one of my closest friends is plant-based. Like she actually worked for my farm for a while. It's just once you get into the extremes of any belief pattern that you start having problems. And so that is something that we've dealt with. It's something that we don't deal with quite as much. And it's such a weird thing because usually what ends up happening is I get more customer support when that happens. Like when they start showing up on my social media and making those comments, it's almost like my customers want to run to my defense, and then people order more from me. And I'm like, this is not doing what you're thinking it's doing.
Do you feel like a couple years ago there was a big like surge of eat vegan, eat plant-based sort of thing, and it's kind of like
I'm seeing more trend. I'm seeing more trend on social media of like the girlies are eating protein now, and there's more of like tallow skincare trends and like eating more protein and protein in the morning, helping with, ADHD. You're just seeing more conversation around protein eating compared to a little bit ago when it was like really a big push and we were seeing a lot more issues and stuff like that. But I've got a number of friends of mine that farm locally and they're like, yeah, I'm just not that willing to open myself up to this anymore, despite being incredible producers and people that I deeply respect for the job that they do and the care that they give their animals. They're just like, it's just not worth it for me. Like I've got young kids. It's just not something that, and then we wonder why farms don't share. And then it's a problem because it like almost perpetuates that idea. They're like behind the closed doors and they're like, they're closing their doors because they want to be safe.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird thing. Like I used to sit on a board for BC Young Farmers and they had a government call that I needed to get in on. And I was very busy, so I didn't have a lot of time to read the email. And I was like, oh, it says agritourism. I'm like, oh man, I do long table events. I know all about agritourism. And I jumped on the call and it was a bunch of people. And I was like, this is weird. They have like police officers from like high level Canadian government police officers. I'm like, what does this have to do with It was agri-terrorism. I just didn't read the email well enough. I'm like, well, this took a drastic turn from what I thought we were talking about. I was like, already. And they're like talking about just how these extremists are starting to infiltrate and like create issues within Canadian agriculture for meat producers and just how it was starting to be disruptive in the flow and production of food here. And it's just such a crazy thing. So I was able to give a little bit of my 2 cents and my experience in that space of just being somebody that is targeted or was targeted. It hasn't happened probably in, 3 years, 4 years now. I've never been like, I'm pretty rough and tumble. Like if you want to come at me online, typically it's misinformation and I'll engage as long as it's not like, don't talk to my customers and don't be mean to my customers. Like you're welcome in my living room, but you can only insult me in my living room. And I'll let that go until we get to that point. But as soon as people start coming in and like attacking my customers on social media, I'm like, okay, it's time for you to go. But it is a really weird dynamic that you can just be doing your job. And I think I do a pretty good job of my job. Like, I think that I'm feeding people in the community, I'm doing the thing, and that just doesn't line up for some people.
Yeah, I feel like we're, pretty familiar with some of that online.
Yeah.
From both of our walks of posting online.
Yeah.
I think it's
pretty crazy online.
Yeah. You definitely have people who feel like they can say whatever they want, do whatever they want. And I mean, it's the internet.
Keyboard warriors.
For sure. It impacts my husband way more than it impacts me because he feels like he needs. I did a video probably like 6 months ago of teaching people how to back up a trailer. Like it should be a non-issue. I have a trick and it's a hack that works really well. And I have a really high number of women that follow me. Oh my gosh, the people were so angry. Like the men coming out of the woodworks, so infuriated that I would be teaching a hack on backing up a trailer. It like got 2.2 million views. And
That's
like
awesome.
People were so mad, like viscerally mad that I had this hack and was teaching it. And like, I was like, dude, I back up big livestock trailers all the time. Like, I know how to back up a trailer. Just because that's not the trick you use. And it was like truck drivers. And they're like, I'm a truck driver. I'm like, this isn't for you, man. This video's not for you. You're hauling a 53-foot trailer and you're backing into Cisco. This isn't for you. This is for like the woman or the guy that like gets into something and has to back up a trailer for the first time. And they're like, I don't know which way to turn the wheel to make this work.
But hey, those 2.2 million views probably got you how many extra follows and all that and customers. And that's the thing that you were touching on is you have so much hate. But with that hate comes the support. If you're going to be that farmer who posts those things, You're going to take all the arrows, but
Yeah.
you're also going to get all the reward at the end of it.
Yeah, it's worth it for me. Like I'll continue to do it. I'll be the one that like sticks my head up above the fence because it's the reason our farm is still here, and it's the reason that our farm went from just me to 9 employees. And so I'll be the one that takes it. But my husband has a hard time with it because he's like, that guy doesn't know what you do a good job of backing up that trait. Like he's not on social media, so he has a very hard time like wrapping his head around the fact that like people will just pop up to be mean. Like he can't like. You need to get on the internet because that's just normal.
It does take time though. Even like when you first probably started getting hate, you're like, wow, like screw you.
Yeah.
And then you're like feeling down, like, you question yourself a little bit. And then you're like, wait, like it's nothing to do with me. Like this person obviously has other problems in life that maybe they don't know how to back up a trailer. Maybe they hit something and now they're like, wow, I can't believe like someone's driving better than me.
Yeah. My husband had a moment where he's like, well, and he was trying to like visually do it. He's like, no, that is how you back up a trailer. He's like, maybe did you do something wrong in that explanation? And he's like, no, you're right.
If people are mean on the internet, I usually just screenshot it and then let other people deal with it.
Yeah, but here's the thing about doing that, because you post it on your other social media, probably. You're like, hey, look, I got a hater, right?
On Instagram, usually just Instagram.
So I had the issue where I was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then more people started commenting the most random, obnoxious things. And it's because, I gave them the platform now. And they're like, oh, I'm going to get the next screenshot. So I had to stop.
Best traction I ever got on Instagram, I don't know if you remember this, when I had that lady that kept on stealing. And everyone was glued to my Instagram. And they were like following along for like 3 weeks of me figuring out who this lady was that was stealing from me at the local space. And then...
That was in Chilliwack, wasn't it?
Yeah, but she brought one bag back of stuff she stole from Langley and one bag that she stole from Chilliwack. I didn't even know she stole stuff from Langley, but it was more like I knew who I know it was a customer. She stole stuff, but then she also bought stuff, but she used her account to buy stuff. So I had her full name, address, everything. So like I knew who she was, and like Maddie went back through the camera and found every single time that she stole something, and like
it was good. It was good.
People were like addicted to the story. I was like, I'm going to give you a little more time, Connie, to come forward. Yes. We won't call the police yet. And then she still didn't. And then the police were like, just blast her on Instagram. And I totally did.
Yeah.
It ended up being a pastor's wife.
Oh, wow.
Oh, snap.
But like that was the best traction I ever got on social media.
Oh, it sounds like a Netflix documentary.
It was fun.
That's crazy. One thing I wanted to ask before we're getting close to wrapping up here, because obviously you were talking about like costs of everything. It's sometimes not it's more expensive to go local, but at least you know where it's coming from and all that. What are you finding is driving the cost of your product up?
Oh man, feed costs for us are the biggest. Like we've had droughts in recent years, which means our hay prices increase because farmers can't get as many cuts off their fields, and all of a sudden our hay increases, our pelletized grain increases so much. We had chicken feed go up like 42% in a short period of time, which is huge when you've got a tight margin to begin with, and then you've got an increase like that. Like you can't plan for that. There's nothing that we can do. Like we have to